Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm using Scrawlrbox 95, really cool box. They've sent a filbert brush, slightly angled, a chunky fineliner, and this ViviaColor watercolor palette. I didn't actually know that Vivia do palettes, and this one's really cool. It comes in like this cork casing, which is just, I don't know, really unique. I thought Vivia only did the color sheets, but yeah, so I'm really quite eager to try these. The color selection's really kind of warm and cartoony and goes with the challenge, which is Quest. I was trying to figure out what to draw for this challenge, and the only thing that keeps popping into my head is the yellow brick road. You know, we're off to see the wizard. Anyway, don't let that get stuck in my head now, but it kind of is now. Anyway, yellow brick road it is. Problem is, this palette doesn't have a yellow, but I guess I'm gonna try and figure a way around that, because it's got this orange, and that fleshy color looks like it's mixed with a lot of white in it, so we'll see if I can make it work. The green in this palette is also very bluish, but I managed to mix it with the orange and get a much warmer shade. Also got a little bit of a grey tone going for any rocks and stuff, because gonna need that. A bit of blue, purple and brown gave me the grey. It's a nice warm grey. Now I'm just trying out the marker over the paint and the marker under the paint. It smudged a little bit, but I think maybe I didn't let it dry properly, so anyway, I'm gonna leave the outlining for basically last, and that'll help give it that cartoony kind of feel. I always start with a sketch. No matter what kind of art I'm doing or what medium I'm gonna use, I tend to always start with a sketch. I'm thinking road down the middle, but it didn't really look right, so I'm going to try and give it a little bit of a curve. I don't know, just make it a bit more interesting. And I'm using the finest pencil. I really like a fine point. This is a 0.3 mechanical. I do actually have a 0.2, but that one's really hard to get refills for, so I mostly use the 0.3. I'm using really light pressure here because I don't want it showing through the watercolors, and even so I'm gonna use my putty rubber to dab most of the pencil off just to make sure it doesn't come through, because watercolors tend to be really translucent. I generally find that doing a sketch really helps, because once you see where things are gonna go, it doesn't sort of matter if some of the details get erased, because, or if, for example, you use more opaque paints like acrylics or oil and you no longer see the sketch, because once you've seen it, once you've put it down on paper in pencil, you kind of have a good idea of what's meant to be there. Like, for example, with the road, the way I initially drew it straight and thought that looked horrible, if I'd have done that with paint right away, with these paints specifically, with watercolors, that would have been almost impossible to fix. I mean, there are paints that are more forgiving and you can just layer and paint over the layer underneath and sort of fix it that way, but with watercolors you can't. Which is also why I'm leaving kind of white patches in some of the grassy areas, because they're gonna have loads of flowers. And watercolors layer in the sense of I can deepen this green or I can give it shadows, but if I was to paint all the grass green, I can't then have light white or pink flowers on top of that. It's just not doable with this type of paint. So I'm leaving some blank white spaces to fill in later with other colors so that they don't get muddy. These paints dry very quickly, and I'm adding a little bit of variation of shades to the hills just to get a little bit of depth and distance. And I am painting most of this wet on dry. I did the sky area wet on wet because I wanted to create that little bit of a gradient. And now that grey that I mixed up for the rocks, just to create a little bit of shadow, I'm doing the deeper, darker grey at the bottom, and then watering it down to kind of create light at the top. It's a nice warm grey, and I think it makes all the difference in the terrain, just breaking up all that green, which would otherwise be boring. I should also mention that I did Google Wizard of Oz before I started, and I think one of the first pictures I saw was pretty much exactly what I had in my mind when I thought of this drawing for the quest, for the challenge. And as much as I'm not actually drawing directly from reference, in a way I kind of am, because I've seen the movie eons ago, whenever it was, and I did scroll through some Google images and stuff. So it's kind of like a mishmash of whatever I've seen at different stages in my life. These characters are tiny, but I wanted the road to feel grandiose because at the end of the day, this is about the quest, not the characters, right? Oh, and speaking of tiny, I've surprisingly been able to use this angled filbert brush to do these teeny tiny little details. I mean, these are smaller than my fingerprint, and this brush is, I mean, it's quite chunky, but because it's angled, I can actually use the tip of it for absolutely minute details. Like these little flowers, obviously I can't draw every single flower that's like a millimeter small, but dots, that's what I'm going with. So I'm gonna do different colored dots and spread them out and layer them to make them feel like a field of flowers. So yeah, I absolutely love this paintbrush. Thank you, Scrawlrbox. This is going in my love it pot. I have 2 pots for paintbrushes. I love it and I hate it. The ones that I hate end up getting used for things that will basically damage them. Because there are some paints that will absolutely destroy a paintbrush, and you never want to use your favorite for that, right? And now for the thing that I've been kind of dreading and putting off till almost last, let's see if I can pull off this yellow road without a yellow. I did mix up some of that fleshy tone into the orange because I noticed it has a lot of white in it, and I watered down the road before putting down the color to make it lighter. And now that I look at it, it can pass for yellow, right? Like a warm, kind of sunny yellow. Yeah, I think I'm alright. I'm alright with that. The Emerald City I figured would be really easy in terms of color because the green in this palette is very bluish. But because I used so much green in the grass, even though I've warmed it up with the orange, I really wanted to make as much of a distinction between the two as possible, so I added some more blue into the green. Now this is looking pretty much how I envisioned, but it definitely needs the outline. And this chunky black fineliner is just absolutely perfect for this. I'm not sure if it's a little bit too thick for the characters, but I'm gonna see how it just how it looks with just getting an outline to everything. I'm also not sure if I'm gonna outline each one of the crystals, but I kind of feel like it needs it, so I'm just I'm using a jelly roll pen here just to, because it's a lot finer tip and I happen to have one at hand, yeah, to just finish off the little black outlines. I mean, I could have tried doing it with a thick fineliner, but it really is chunky, and sometimes it's nice to create contrast between a really chunky outline and like a slightly finer outline for the details. I've also gone for a white jelly roll to add a few highlights and sparkles to the city. I should mention the jelly rolls were not in the box. Well, there it is, my challenge drawing for Scrawlrbox 95. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more random art. Thanks, see you soon!